Coming up on OTH, me and Raymond go over the patch 11.14 preview and talk about the newest roster moves from Gold Guardians and FlyQuest. Then we cover LCS Week 5 of the Summer Split with all of the placements of the teams and talk about how the teams are doing so far. Lastly, we talk about the latest items that have come out and how they're doing so far, as well as Perkz' eye situation with the whole studio lights. We hope you enjoy episode 20 of On the Hunt. Welcome, everybody, to episode 20 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. The last episode, in fact, because my coworkers found out about this shit, and so we're deleting it all after this episode.
Shit,
no, I'm just
dude.
kidding. I'm your co-host, Chris, a.k.a. the true RPGer, because I played a lot of Final Fantasy games, and so that makes me the know-it-all of the whole genre.
The only RPG there is, man, apparently.
Basically. No, I actually haven't played that many. I've only played like 3 or 4, but we can talk about that later. And joining me on this episode is our other co-host, Raymond. What's good in the hood, my good sir?
Not much, dude. Doing good. Just had a nice 4-day weekend. Took a little trip out of town. Saw some friends. It was good.
Oh yeah, where'd you go?
Dude, I actually went to your neck of the woods. I was in Sacramento to hang out with my buddy Kyle.
Oh dang, okay. That's a long trip, is it not?
I mean, I take a flight. It's a 1-hour flight. Not that bad.
Okay. All right, that's awesome. Yeah, pretty sweet. I actually spent my 4th of July playing Final Fantasy 14, the online game.
Okay.
I just got started with it, so diving back into the D-Gen MMO world.
Yeah.
I went pretty hard on it on Sunday, and then it's kind of slowed down because it's the weekday now. But it's extremely slow so far, and it's my first MMO that has global cooldowns on like every time you cast a skill, and it's like kind of
Oh, really?
daunting and slow to me. So but like I heard that it's really slow for like most of the game. Like pretty much only end game is like the fun part, but we'll see how I end up taking that.
What other MMOs have you played before?
I played like trashy MMO, like trashy anime ones, I guess.
Hmm.
So I played one called Aura Kingdom. I played one called Dragon Nest in like 2013. I really liked that one actually. I played another one called Nostale. I played that
Okay.
a lot during the lockdown actually.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah?
too much. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing like I've never paid to play in an MMO before as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so
I get you.
I've never bought an MMO like Black Desert or Bless, and I've never like monthly subscribed as well. I guess there's not a lot of those out there.
All right, I hear you. I was just like, I guess I've only played like WoW, so it's not like fuck if I know. But
Yeah, I've never played WoW actually. So maybe we'll give it the good old try someday.
yeah, let me know. Let me know when that happens, dude.
Why? We gonna fuck some orcs up together or what?
Yeah, I mean maybe. I guess.
Maybe.
I mean I'm definitely gonna be. I'm a horde player, so I'm not fucking up Perkz if I don't have to.
Yeah, for sure. I might have to hit up the old Frosty as well. Frosty speak too.
You're jumping into a bag of worms there. I feel like if you do that, bro.
Yeah, if you know, you know. All right, we can get started with this episode of On the Hunt with the patch 11.14 preview provided by Riot Jag, I believe his name is.
You got it.
And a couple champion nerfs here, a couple champion buffs here, and then some adjustments to Dr. Mundo, Irelia, Lilia, and Tom Kench. Not a lot sticks out to me from this patch. The one thing that does is the change to Akali's Q, which is not going to allow you to cast it during her E when you're flying at somebody, I assume.
Mhm.
And that just gives me the feels because once upon a time, you used to be able to cast Kha'Zix's W during the jump, and then they took that away, and it's never been the same ever since. And
Yeah.
so I just have that same feeling here of like they're taking away the Q from the E, and maybe it's gonna feel clunky now, or maybe you're gonna miss opportunities to kill people because you're closing the distance, and then they just auto attack you before you can cast Q or something. So feels bad. I feel the pain just from reading that nerf. Um, and then another thing that hurts me personally is a little nerf to Malzahar's base HP and Q ratio.
Oof. The only
And
the only
then
champ you can play with your old man hands or what?
Yeah, pretty much. My old arthritis hands. Yeah. And then another change that sticks out to me is they're nerfing Nocturne's passive damage on minions to do 50% of what it usually does of the damage. And so that might take a hit to Nocturne's early level wave clearing between like levels 1 and 6, I would think, before he gets like a serrated dirk or even his first mystic item. It's going to hurt the wave clear by like one cycle, I think. But we'll have to wait and see how that ends up turning out. Was there anything in this patch preview that stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the big ones. I think that the Kali change, I feel like I'm less. I don't have any. I don't have any problem with it, to be honest. Like, I think she's. I don't know that, especially when you bring up the Kha'Zix one. Like, I'll be honest, I was also a Kha'Zix abuser back in the day for sure. So I can recall that, and like I feel like it's not that bad. Like that one pretty clear. I feel like that's a good example of like that's probably fair. That's healthy. That he doesn't get all his damage going like at once, like kind of guaranteed. Definitely gonna hit you, right? And I feel like I feel pretty similar about this Akali one. Like I think you want to encourage like Akali's play pattern of like weaving like passive autos and stuff into your spell combo, and it's so annoying to just like see an Akali like right if she like REs onto you and then comes back in and like EQ like autos and then R's out, right? And like she hits you with her full combo and one shots you and you're like especially when you're squishy. Like that just feels bad, man. So I think forcing her to kind of be more careful about her cooldowns that way is nice.
Yeah, I think as you were mentioning that, I recall that the for Kha'Zix it was a little clunky at first, and then they made a change to it where if you cast W mid-air, it would queue up the W to cast as soon as you land. So I wonder if something
Oh,
like that is in the works for Akali as well.
that's interesting. Yeah, maybe. Otherwise, yeah, I think for the rest of this patch, I think you're right about the Nocturne thing. I think that's big. Just I feel like that's top lane Nocturne like definitely getting taken down a notch. It's like it's just too easy to one shot waves with that champ, just like it is like with Lee Sin. Like I think that's similarly hitting like when they've nerfed Lee Sin E's damage in the last few patches. Just keep that from being a like Q, and then he walks into the whole wave and autos and Iron Spike whips, and then the whole wave is dead, and you have to fight Nocturne or just die. So I like that change. There's a few buffs to champs that I feel like are whatever. Like really, like Alawi Ivern, who cares? Rek'Sai, who cares? Seraphine, I don't need to see that champ, but God bless if you're a Seraphine player, I guess. They've got some good. I feel like the kind of mini rework or mini adjustments to like Dr. Mundo, Aurelia, Lilia, those are kind of interesting. I don't know. The Lilia changes I think are the ones I'm most excited to see. I feel like Aurelia, I don't think I understand the champ enough to care like what's going on with that whole change list. But Lilia is like I don't know. Lilia is a cool champ, but Lilia is a fun champ. I think so. Like I'd like to see her get a little bit of love and be playable again.
Yeah, I feel like she fell off the face of the earth from off of Spring Split in LCS, and then I don't see a lot of people playing her very much anymore. So maybe it was the nerf to the Moonstaff build that makes her not seeing a lot of play anymore, but probably not.
Yeah, I think it was the big like when they hit her ultimate cooldown to be like 90 seconds at rank 3 or whatever it was, like I think that was the big thing that you could no longer just like really fish with your ultimate and just like hit a long range E on a couple people and throw an ulti and you force a bunch of stuff and then you can do it again a minute later.
Oh, I see, I see. It takes a Lilia player to know one.
Yeah, I'm just a Speak a fanboy, dude. Master of the 5-man, 9-man sleep.
Yeah, master of the the Prince of Good Nights, I guess. And then for the Doctor Mundo and Tom Kench changes, I don't really have much to say. I think I did play Mundo one time, and he feels kind of weird, kind of cool with the his new W. It's kind of like Jace W, and then like you pop it again for like to do a little more damage and gain health, I believe.
Yeah.
And then his E is kind of weird. I mean, it's similar to his last E, so it's not weird in that respect. But like as a skill independently, it's like kind of weird of like an auto attack reset that's like Scion's E if you kill something with it. It's like it's so weird.
Yeah.
And then the passive is kind of weird as well. How it only works on like true stuns or like snares or immobilizes, however you say that word. Um, yeah, he feels really weird to me right now, but I don't know if people are enjoying him more than before. So I hope if you're a Dr. Mundo fan, you're liking the way he is now. And then also for Tom Kench, I feel like the new Tom Kench is really cool. Actually, I think his W is like extremely funny, and actually kind of strong. Like if you're able to get more than two knockups in a single fight, I feel like you should win that fight and you deserve to win because it's kind of hard to hit and it's just like, but it's so rewarding if you do hit it. So I think it's a really cool like AoE knockup on a relatively short cooldown. Like I feel like the impact that it has for the cooldown that it is, it's like I think it's like an ultimate level knockup of ultimate level kind of CC in terms of like it being a knockup, it being AoE, and also having a good distance to it. It's like it's pretty good, and it actually makes them kind of fearful or something to be afraid of.
Yeah, I feel like I guess I haven't played that much since the last patch came out, but I don't think I've seen Tom Kench at all, like in any of my games. I think I watched some people play him on like streams or YouTube or whatever, but just I've not seen that champ.
Let's move on to some roster moves. Where today we're recording on Tuesday instead of our usual Monday, and thank goodness we are because some new news came out today, in which Licorice, the top laner for FlyQuest, is being transferred over to Golden Guardians, and on top of that, Golden Guardians is extending his contract through the next 2 years up to 2023. So, and with that, their current top laner Solo is still on the roster technically, and he's still going to be paid. Who knows how much, but he's still on salary and he's still listed as a substitute for now. But it looks like Licorice is going to be the primary LCS starter for Golden Guardians, and I guess we'll start there. Kind of a crazy move out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, it is kind of surprising. I think I don't know. FlyQuest has had a really rough summer split, and I think that I can see why Licorice would kind of want to get out of there. I don't know, and it seems like I don't know. We'll talk about them subbing in their academy, I guess too. But like that, it seems like they just have like a lot of faith probably in their system at the moment. Like that they have the talent backing them up too. That hopefully they're cool with what they have already in the pipeline. For Golden Guardians, I think it's pretty interesting. I feel like this year has been like not great for Licorice overall, just because I don't know, probably due to the team environment. Just like they've clearly stuff is going wrong. But just he hasn't looked much of the same as like the Licorice who made it to Worlds semis and stuff with Cloud9. So I think that his stock has fallen, but in the off season, I remember Golden Guardians being really high on trying to like win the bidding war for Licorice away from C9, and they were ready to pay big fucking money before COVID made the Warriors tell them not to. So like I'm sure that they feel really good about it from the managerial point of view, where they were like, this is exactly who we wanted to sign before the split or before this whole year, and now we get him for pennies on the dollar, like by comparison.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point to point out. I actually didn't know that they had wanted him in that whole kind of bidding war over him. And like the package deal that he was offered with in C9, I believe. I think you had to take Licorice and like somebody else and as part of the buyout process.
Yeah, I think they
and
were
then on
going.
top of that, oh, go ahead.
I think it was. I think that was the whole combo that FlyQuest got with Licorice, Palafox, and Diamond. I think those were all three who they were expecting to trade, or at least like some combination of those younger players with Licorice.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Then I'm recalling that correctly. What I wanted to go on is I think I saw a Licorice interview back from spring, and where he talked to Travis Gafford about kind of struggling to find like leadership skills now that he's playing with a lot of people who weren't at the level of other teammates that he had in Cloud9.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was struggling to find like the leadership skills to be able to manage his waves and manage what you have to do as a top laner, but also call out for his team and feed the necessary information to his team and help to train them to feed him the information that he needs to properly play the game as well. And so I saw an interview where like he was kind of sad and struggling with like being on a new team and having to go through those pains. And so I'm wondering, like, that's great that Golden Guardians wants him, and then maybe this new shift from team to team can help him can help him give like a second wind or something. But if he was having that problem on FlyQuest, I would worry that like he's still gonna have the some of the same struggles with Golden Guardians. You know, I don't know if Stixxay can help him provide the veteranship to the team, and if Stixxay could do that, then they should have been succeeding beforehand, I would be thinking. But hopefully they can find their stride a bit more than a bit more than Solo has helped. But I'm kind of sad because I was thinking that Solo was a great addition to the Golden Guardians team, and already they're having a much better record than their spring split performance if we were to be ending next week at week 6. But anyways, yeah, just kind of sad that Solo is damn near free agent status again, but happy Licorice gets to find a new home if that's what he wanted, and sounds like the Golden Guardians wanted that. And then sounds like FlyQuest is okay with trading them away. And then you already kind of alluded to this, but in addition to the Licorice trade-off move, they're also trading off their whole LCS roster to the Academy team, where FlyQuest is going to promote their whole Academy roster to be playing in the LCS for week 6. And so that's going to be top laner Kumo, I believe. I think the jungler's name is NXI.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look this up. I had it pulled up not that long ago. Yeah, so jungler NXI, mid laner Triple, and then bot lane AD carry Tomo and support Diamond is going to be the starting LCS roster for FlyQuest in week 6. Any thoughts on that? The whole trade, like swapping the LCS roster and Academy roster for this next week of Summer Split?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I think I get it in a vacuum. You know, like you think like your team's gone like 0-9 or 0-10, and like they're like just haven't won a game since who knows when, kind of. And it just looks bad. And now you're getting rid of Licorice, who is probably a major way of like how they tried to play the game, just due to his veteran status. And I think that all that combined kind of makes it so I can see why you would just kind of drop your LCS team, like figure like our Academy team, if they're doing good, like let them do it on the stage. But it just, I mean, it's still, it feels weird. Like I think the real like saddest story has got to be like Jose Dioto like coming in and being like this hyped jungler. He came from Latin America, he did great at Worlds, and you know, like that's a big pickup kind of for FlyQuest, just to be able to draw kind of as a brand. And now you're sending him to Academy, and it just feels like the Levi situation, that 100 Thieves, like you pick up a like really cool minor region import jungler. He's got fans, like he'll be hype, and then the team falls apart around him, and you don't let him play, and then he's just gonna like go back to his own region. It feels like I don't know. That's speculation, obviously, but it feels bad to see him not get to play.
Yeah, and I think Jose Dioto has been like pretty solid top 5 of solo queue for like pretty much the whole time that he's been here. He's doing really well in the region in that regard, but yeah, it sucks that he can't find the success after going to Worlds and then kind of like fulfilling his dream of like being in LCS. And then also worth noting is that they don't have a second top laner at the moment, I don't think, so they're going to be playing Kumo for the top lane for both Academy and the LCS games. Yeah. So I wonder if that matters to him at all. But other than that, that's our roster moves for the week. And if anything, one last thing to check up on is that Alfari did not play this past week's games, and then there hasn't been any further communication as to whether he'll be back or not. So expect Jenkin for the foreseeable future until otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I think I'm expecting he'll be back this week. I think the point was that last week, I mean, he was not playing with the team at all during the break, right? Like that, his break was just like a legitimate break. I don't know if he even played solo queue. You know, he came back, he started streaming like the day after his break ended. So I think that was probably like the first time that he had started playing. And I bet I would bet that he like split scrims or did some scrims last week or played with the Academy team or whatever. And then this week he'll be back into full practice. We just haven't heard anything. But I'd be surprised that he would have been around and like gone on double co-stream and like that kind of stuff, and like isn't gonna be involved in some way from now on.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because I was watching this Perkz interview today where he was saying that like now that Sven's finally back into the roster at like week 4 of the LCS, like now it feels like they're actually having like proper practice again, and like basically they just missed the first 3 weeks of LCS like proper practice because they didn't have their full roster in a sense. So I kind of feel the same way for TL, where like if they're gonna bring back Alfari, then they're like all the practice that they've done over the last 4 or 5 weeks is like somewhat negligible, because now they're working with not just a new top laner again, but also having to work up the synergy between Armeo and Alfari, which I'm sure there's already some there, but it's like in a weird way, it's like, okay, well, this is what we figured out for the last 2 patches, and then you weren't here for that. Now we have to catch you up to it, and then yeah, they're just like they're not. You don't get to continue from where your current team's focus is. You have to start over when you add a new person in, whether or not you played with them before.
Yeah, that's fair. That seems. I'm almost more surprised at just what you said about what Perkz said about Sven. Like that seems like it seemed like that thing was like more of like Sven was benched right because of like team issues. I guess it sounded like it was like a just a weird environment among team members. But maybe I don't know. So I'm surprised that like Perkz would feel so strongly like that it's like, oh yeah, we just lost those 4 weeks playing with King, when it would have felt like I would expect that to have been what they kind of wanted as a team.
Yeah, or you would think that like swapping out like AD carry would be one of 2 positions that you can swap out and have like relatively lower effect to your overall team cohesion and strategy, because AD carry for the most
Just
part the
right
job
click
is to right
things.
click.
Yeah,
Yeah,
forehead.
I mean I'm sure there's some leadership, shot calling skills, and also just general mechanical prowess that Sven brings to a team, on top of veteranship. But yeah, that was the sentiment from Perkz, is that he felt that once Sven came back into the team as the starting AD carry, they essentially had to start over some aspects of their
Their training.
like a training and adjustment to the current patch and the current meta.
Yeah, I get that. I think at least for that point, I think that for Team Liquid and Alfari, they probably already can say that they would have lost those first 4 weeks of practice anyway because they got rid of their coach. So it's not any different.
Yeah, it's a weird situation for sure, but I hope everybody figures it out, with from GGS to Licorice, and then TL with Alfari, and Cloud9 with Sven. Okay, and then we can backpedal to talk about any content that you watched this week. I watched this Summoning Insight with just that came out just yesterday, I think, with Monte Cristo Thorin and one of the new casters to the LCS named Kaizen. That was an interesting episode because they talked about how Kaizen used to work on the part of the LCS team that came up with all of the like region locking rules in the first place. So he helped come up with the rules that grandfathered Bjergsen in, and then helped determine like the region locking of like what is an import, and how do you determine like native status, and how long does that take. So it was interesting to hear like the how those first kind of rules first came about, and then what their kind of think of process was, and then also the think of process of how like the world's format is kind of perceived of, and how and why the world's format is the way that it is for at least the past few years. And so that was really interesting to hear from him, and then also just a little bit on his backstory, because I haven't watched any of the like next level stuff where I think he's also like told kind of his story as well. But yeah, I really like that.
Dude, he talked about that stuff on Hotline League like 2.5 months ago, man. Give it the times.
Yeah. So I'm sure he's told his story like a million times by now. And then another thing is that Alfari and Broken Blade were on the Double F Co stream on Sunday. I guess I'll count that as content. But then, yeah, that's it for me. Was there any League of Legends content for you this past week?
Yeah, not really, dude. I think I listened to Hotline League. They had Finn on last week from CLG. I think it was interesting to hear from him some. I'm not even sure that I finished the episode, to be honest. I was busy all weekend, dude. I barely watched LCS.
For
It's
sure,
kind of been a chill week.
I can get with that. Well, another thing why I wanted to bring up like Final Fantasy 14 at the start of the episode is like I feel like I have more time to be able to like watch stuff like this, like the little interviews between like the players and like some random interviewer, because I'm just like mindlessly grinding away, like killing monsters and that sort of thing. So I might be able to catch a little bit more content from here on out, but we'll see. All right, let's do our picks of the week, where I guess I'll get started again. I've got
That's
another
pretty
ARAM
troll.
pick for you. I have two of them actually that are kind of
Okay.
troll. One of them that neither of these champions are auto wins, but I am going to add to my list of auto win champions and put Nico on there because definitely if you ever get Nico, it's an automatic win. It's so hard to mess up and there's so many chances for you to just like come out of nowhere and have no counterplay to you blowing up one or two people or possibly even like the whole team at once. And so that actually happened to me like last week where I had this crazy full team ulti and like I one shot four of their team. But
Damn.
anyways, so for my picks of the week, the first pick is going to be Tank, Tryndamere, and ARAM. And I know this sounds incredibly troll, but trust me, you have to try it before you knock it.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna knock it once as soon as you finish, but go ahead.
okay, so the theory here is first of all, when people look at you, they don't think that you're a tanky champion. They think you're a squishy champion, and so they devote a lot of resources to killing you, such as like vital cooldowns or even CC. And then then they'll realize that like only 25% of your health is gone when it should be more. And on top of that, when you're playing this like non-damage kind of build, you can max W first instead of Q,
Uh huh.
and that will have like a really harsh AD reduction debuff on like their primary carries, which is actually like kind of broken actually for both peeling as well as diving because either you're gonna waste more of their backline's time or you're gonna prevent their front line from killing your backline. In whatever fashion that you want to go about doing that, and so it's surprisingly annoying. And then also like for some reason this champion just gets crit chance without building it. So on top of like being super tanky, you can somewhat do damage with just building like regular tank items, and like you don't have to build a damage item in order to do like meaningful annoying damage. So that's my first pick. If you wanna, if
Yeah,
you
I'm
got
just
something to say
I'm
about it,
all I'm thinking is that I had to look it back up. We played 10 days ago. We played an ARAM against a tank Tryndamere, and all I can remember from that game is saying, "Dude, I'm pretty sure this guy is useless." And you were like, "It looks like he's doing stuff." And I'm like, "No, you just like we just like ignore him and we're winning, but we keep focusing him and it's terrible."
I have tried it twice since then, and has I have had great success with it.
Yeah, I guess it's fair. I mean, it's true that we lost that game, but it's
Yeah,
still
checkmate,
I'll
atheist.
have to see it in a convincing win because it was not convincing in that game. Pretty sure we
Okay,
trolled.
yeah, it's not at the same. It's definitely not on the same tier or status of like actual broken champions, like let's say Ash or Vagar. But it's fun for sure. So that's my first pick of the week. And my second pick of the week, I guess I should save it for next week because that sounds like really dumb of me to say that out
Damn,
loud.
dude, you're gonna have one a week ahead. We're gonna have a whole new patch. There's no way.
Yeah, I teased you already. Okay, so my second pick of the week is going to be Poppy on ARAM, where lately there's nothing broken about it. I just feel like I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I found out that you can actually super cuck Orns with it because you can both of Orns W and R are coded as dashes that you can block with Poppy ulti. So it felt bad when Samira's can stop Orn from ulting, but I found out that Poppy can as well. So I've had a lot of fun with that, and I'm glad that I'm able to play more front lines in ARAM because I feel like I always have really butthole frontline players in ARAM. So I feel like I do a good job at it of
Damn,
skirting
dude.
the line between like taking damage and not taking damage, but also being threatening, but also finding the wall bang angles and disrupting dashes with my W.
Fucking
And
bomb that.
I've had some life saves with her ulti as well. So I'm enjoying Poppy, but I don't think she's broken, but I'm enjoying her.
Damn, that's fair, dude. I respect that. I'm a old school. I remember back in the day, before they reworked Poppy, I made a
Yeah,
Smurf account, just to make a Smurf account. I was convinced that I was gonna be a old school Poppy main on that
for
Smurf and
life.
just only play Poppy, but it didn't happen. But
Yeah. Who was that one guy that used to play Poppy all the time? I think his name was like Zekent or something like
yeah,
that.
Zekint. He was
Okay.
Poppy and AP Janna, baby.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think Poppy was one of the first champions that I liked as well, and I would play like support Poppy because I was convinced it was broken.
Oh God.
But that was before I was level 30.
Yeah.
What about you? You got a pick of the week?
All right, dude. I'm be honest, part of why I was so ready to let you do 2 picks of the week is because I'm here with like definitely no pick of the week. So my pick of the week is gonna be to go outside and touch some fucking grass, dude. I think that's my only takeaway. I mean, I was legit out of the house for like 4 days. Didn't play any league this weekend. Barely watched LCS. Saw some friends. It felt good. It was nice to go out in the world a little bit. I know there's still some COVID, and stay safe and all that. Get vaccinated if you haven't, stuff like that. But it's nice to go outside. So I'll say go touch some grass.
All right, I respect that. Picking the real world over over the virtual.
Yeah. But that's only because we're right on the brink of this whole ruination thing, dude. And you got to be ready to fucking grind it out and get in the world of the Runeterra. It's all preparation.
Okay, let's jump into LCS Summer Split Week 5, where first
How we
off I'll
looking?
start off. What's up?
How we looking? What are our standings, man?
Yeah, let me go through the standings. Let me do it properly this time and not jump all over the place. And so in first place, we've got 100 Thieves, who had a 3-0 week this week with a summer score of 13-2. That brings their total to 24-9 and securely puts them in first place. From which I've heard is the first time that a team has been in first place that is not TSM, Cloud9, or TL for like a very long time. I think the last time someone else did it was like technically 2018 100 Thieves when they finished first place in the spring split, the first time they were here in franchising. And then like another time that somebody else was first place was like Optic Gaming, which was
In
and it
like
was like week
2019,
2.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like 4-0.
And then another time that another team was first place was like Immortals in 2016. So it's very rare circumstances that a team that is not TSM, C9, or TL is first place, and right now is one of them. And yes, they've got first place with one game over second place, who was TSM. They had a 2-1 weekend, totaling now 11-4 for the summer split, and also brings them to a grand total of 23-10. Next up, we've got C9 in third place, also had a 2-1 weekend in week 5. They're 8-7 now in summer, and their final score is 21-12. Just one game behind them is TL in fourth. They had a 1-2 weekend, unfortunately, playing some tough teams this weekend. They're also 8-7, just like Cloud9 for the summer split, and their total is 20 wins, 13 losses. Catching right back up after we were talking about a separation last week, but Evil Geniuses is kind of showing their strides again. They had a 3-0 weekend in week 5, which brings their summer total to 9-6. That's technically doing better than Cloud9 and TL are. And their total record is 19-14, just one game behind C9 and TL, or just one game behind TL. Next up in sixth place, we've got Dignitas Quantum Pay, who had a 2-1 weekend. Their summer totals are 6 wins, 9 losses, giggity. And their spring and summer combined totals are 17-16. Once again, right behind them is Immortals, just one game behind. They had a 1-2 weekend, and we had keeping an eye on them because they also had some tough matchups this past weekend. But unfortunately, they weren't able to hold through, so they took 2 losses to the face. And notably, their Sunday win was against Dignitas, so that helps them close the gap because they're now 8-7 in the summer split, kind of balancing out their wins and losses there, and then they're 15-18 in total. So I would say that pretty securely sets them in for the... No, I'm speaking too soon because there's still like 3 or 4 weeks left in the summer split. Anyway, so tied for 8th and 9th place, we've got CLG and FlyQuest.
Are you kidding? You think they're fine? You can say it. Immortals are gonna make playoffs. Anyway,
I don't know, man. There's still 12 games left.
There's 6 games ahead of CLG and FlyQuest, dude. There's no way that both of those teams or Golden Guardians get 6 more wins to split. Like, no way.
Yeah. So speaking of CLG, they went 0-3 this week for the second time in a row. Second for a second consecutive week is what I mean to say. Yep. They're 4-11 for the summer split in total, which brings them to a 9-24 cumulative 2021 record. And then for FlyQuest, they also had a bummer 0-3 weekend. Like you previously mentioned, I believe they're on like a 9 losing streak or something like that, which brings their summer scores to 3-12. And their total game score is also 9-24, tied with CLG. And then finally at 10th place, we've got Golden Guardians, who had a 1-2 weekend. They've had a lot of those this split. Their total is 5-10 for the summer. And their overall total is 8-25 for the whole year. So this summer split they're already having a better time than their spring split, and it's only been 5 weeks, so there's still one more week before it would have been the same amount of games that they played in spring. So anyways, that's our summer split 1 through 5 for week 5. Anything you want to talk about for starting with the teams, I guess?
I don't know, dude. I think there's only a couple questions here. I think we got to start with the two teams that went 3-0. We've got 100 Thieves and we've got Evil Geniuses. I think you got to tell me, is 100 Thieves actually the best team in the LCS right now?
I don't know because I don't watch their games, but for but
Yeah.
because like I keep thinking that they're like Dignitas from last split, where like in a way I see that they're getting wins and I see that they've gotten wins for like the last 3 weeks, but I'm hesitant to put faith in them or like expect them to continue winning just because of like history, I guess. But yeah, they had a I would say crucial win over TL this past weekend, where it looks pretty dominant. I had a glance at it, and it looks like they controlled the Dragons all game, but it would seem like they had a pretty big lead in that game and took it slow to close it out. Maybe that could be interpreted as a good or a bad thing, but in the end, they were able to secure that win over, and I would say a pretty crucial win over another top 4 team, and then close the rest of the weekend out for 3-0. And then as far as Evil Geniuses, I hope they're improving, and I hope that they're finding their ways to be able to be a successful team, especially with all the great players there and with the addition of Danny as well. So I'm happy to see that they had a 3-0 weekend. Although notably it was not against any of the top 4 teams, to my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, I think notably it was against actually the worst 3 teams, right? I think they beat CLG, who's now like 0-6 in the last 6 games. FlyQuest, who's 0-10 in their last 10 games, and Golden Guardians, who's the 10th place team LCS. So probably good that they did get their 3 wins, but yeah, I wouldn't give them that much credit off of the single 3-0 week here.
Yeah, but I guess they're on fire now because they've won 5 straight now, to help them catch back up to the standings. So I would say that they're good to go for locking in a spot in the summer playoffs.
Yeah, that's true. I'll take that.
Any other teams that you want to highlight?
I don't know. I think we've all kind of got our eyes. I mean, TSM C9TL, they're all kind of hanging in there. TSM has been inconsistent at best, but I mean good, but like inconsistent. Obviously, they're 11-4. It feels TSM feels more to me like how we felt about Dignitas last split, where it's like I'm not gonna be convinced until I don't know until they actually win, I guess. But I mean, they're already winning games, but like I won't be sure of it until they're in playoffs, I guess. And then C9TL, they're bouncing back a little bit. We'll see. We'll see if Alfari comes back and helps out TL. We'll see if Perkz being allowed to wear a hat is really going to help out C9.
Yeah, I'm actually really happy that you brought that up. I mean, we'll get to that. I think first off, to agree with your points, I agree TSM is kind of inconsistent. So for me, it's also kind of hard to root for them. Where like I don't know if I can put my full faith into them to like ride it out and take the win in the end. But
I mean,
they are doing this.
I will say, I'm still definitely rooting for TSM, dude. I've got my full faith behind it, but I'm
Uh huh.
just, I'm not
Okay. Yeah.
surprised if they lose the games. Like when they lose to Dignitas, like yeah, that's bound to happen. But then
Okay.
they can
Yeah. You
beat
you know what you signed up
C9 and
for.
they can beat TL, and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah,
This is why you root for them. I get
exactly.
that. But they are doing well in the summer split so far. Just 2 games behind 100 Thieves, and I think some of TSM's losses are to 100 Thieves. But they do lose some random games to
Like
lower
FlyQuest.
lower half teams as well every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so one team I wanted to bring up is C9 because it looks like Perkz was reinvigorated this past weekend. He seemed to be playing really well from the 2 games that I caught of theirs. And so, yeah, from this past weekend, he was caught on camera wearing a hat, some would say a cap. And I think he had done a post game interview where he was saying that like he's wearing the hat now because there's very bright lights in the LCS studio that have affected him ever since the start of the summer split, and kind of started during the spring finals when like they were playing like semi outdoors and the light was shining down on them super badly in the middle of the day. But it's exacerbated now in the NA LCS studio, and apparently the kind of drama I suppose is that he has been asking to have the lights adjusted, which like I guess shouldn't be. It doesn't sound like a hard task, I suppose, but they don't do it for whatever, for who knows what kind of logistics there are, or in terms of like Perkz telling the refs that the lights bother him because of a medical issue, and the refs just like don't have control of the lights. So like, what can they do? But also like that information being passed around to the right people who can lower the lights or who do have the authority to do that, and not affect like the stage lighting or like the camera angles for the players or something like that. And then so yeah, long story short, the lights are bright and it affects them as a player and possibly other players who may have sensitive eyes due to operations or something like that. I'm sure that some players have had like LASIK eye surgery, like Double F has had that. I don't know if it affects like light sensitivity or anything post surgery, but that's Perk's story. That's Perk's side of the story from here. Do you care at all? I guess is we'll start there.
Uh, uh not really. I'm I like I don't quite buy the like I don't quite buy the like this was like what was holding him back, you know? Like I don't
Sure, sure.
expect that Caps Perks is just gonna bring C9 to, you know, all glory and they're like gonna be the clear best team in LCS. But like I think it's important. I'm glad that they figured it out for him, I guess. I hope that they actually like do something and don't just like make him wear a hat instead. Like if he, you know, I feel like he probably doesn't wear a hat all the time and he shouldn't have to just on stage. But I don't know. I'd be surprised that it's actually as huge of a factor. I feel like if it was that bad, we would have heard it like after week 2 or something. Like I don't think you wait
Mm-hmm.
until you just won or like had a good week or whatever to say like, oh yeah, now the lights are better and I am reborn like that. I feel like you would know like, dude, I can't see or it gives me fucking headaches that I have to stare into these bright lights all game. That would come out of Perks, I feel like, faster than it had. So maybe I'm too cynical about it, but it yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I don't think you're being too egregious about like why is this the first time we're kind of hearing about it out of nowhere. I mean, and to your point, I think that like I don't know if the problem is resolved. Like I don't know if they ever ended up turning up or down the lights for when C9 is going to go play or something like that. Because like the whole point of him wearing a hat is that like they haven't. I'm assuming they haven't changed it or they don't or they can't change it or they're
Right.
not going to change it, and so they're allowing him to wear a hat because otherwise, to my understanding as well, you're not supposed to wear hats on the LCS stage.
Right.
Possibly because it fucks with like the noise canceling function of like their headphones and like it would make you hear like outside noises if you had a hat on, because of the way it like shapes around your head. I suppose not that there's an audience who's gonna tell them like blabbers at the blue or something like that,
But I think they can hear
but
casters like
yeah, maybe that could be it. But yeah, so the players are not supposed to wear hats, and so they're giving Perks a special exception to wear a hat, and it took them 5 weeks to give him that exemption, supposedly. So I guess that's the interesting part of it as well, and hopefully it's like a learning lesson for the league as a whole to approach these kind of issues, and hopefully players can escalate them a little bit quicker if they have something that kind of like affects their level of gameplay on stage, but probably not.
this sounds like something that the Players Association could tackle. IMO. What do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like something that they can get in there. That actually reminds me of like another thing that Double said on the co-stream this weekend is he was saying that like pretty much there is a version of practice tool that exists internally in which you can have more than one player inside of the practice tool. And if you were to go to Riot headquarters and play on like within the building, they have an internal tool version of practice tool in which you could play with up to 10 people inside of practice tool. And so
Yeah.
I guess that's why he's always like kind of mentioning it every time that he brings up like players association or like ways that NA or the world can improve at league as a whole, is if you could bring more players into practice tool, there's so much better practice that players could be having or like figuring out in terms of practicing mechanics or even testing mechanics. And it exists apparently, but they don't implement it to live servers for one reason or another.
Yeah, I think I get that. I mean, that's like the whole thing, isn't there? There's some like exploitative way that you can get into the free for all practice tool or whatever through like just through the API or something. Isn't I think there's like isn't it's like Vanderl or whoever does the bug hunting videos. They talked about it not too long ago that there's like there's known ways to do it, but not quite like still like I think the big thing that would be like vital I think for LCS teams would be to do stuff like in place like chrono breaks like that you could pull out a replay like from LCS or set one up somehow like with all the right items and levels and that kind of stuff and go in and like rerun a Baron fight or something and like practice set plays in a way like that. But I don't know if that's I'm sure that's more of stuff that's capable of like the real dev version that Riot has like at Riot HQ as opposed to just like if you were to play 10% practice tool. But I'm definitely on board with like they should have something like that, but I just don't know how they'd get around to it kind of.
Yeah, that would be awesome if they could have some sort of like chrono break tool in a way where like you could download any game of League of Legends, a replay file of any games, and like you could play it up to a certain, you can play the replay up to a certain point, and then you can have 10 people take control of the champions in that game and play it out a different way. Like that
Yeah,
would be
just
really
jump right in.
interesting. Yeah, to just be able to jump right in. I feel like that's definitely like that would have a lot of behind the scenes development required to be able to do that. But I feel like that sounds like a modern feature that should be in League of Legends, and I would hope to see it within the next generously I would say 5 years, but it should be a feature that like it would be awesome if they dropped that within
Yeah,
the next year.
yeah, definitely.
Probably coming first to Wild Rift or something like that, or whenever they're able to do like a client upgrade and then finally able to like ditch old code and then being able to implement new code that allows them to kind of introduce chrono break kind of technologies to the live server as well.
All right, dude. Anything else? Any other spicy topics?
Oh, actually, yeah. One last thing I have to talk about is the two new items, Hullbreaker and Anathema's chains. First of
Hmm.
all, that it is pronounced as anathema, and
Okay.
secondly, that item is actually not that bad. I think it's pretty cool actually. In the sense that one, if the enemy team is calmed out in a certain way, let's say like 4 AD, 1 AP, you can
Hmm.
just build armor and then like target that 1 AP champion with Anathema's chains, and then like essentially you're covered for like all types of damage. Where like you'll just take straight up 30% less damage from the AP user, and then you'll just build armor for the rest of the time. So I think that's kind of cool, and it like puts limits on like team comps in a sense where like now you're able to be punished for certain kinds of team comps in a different way due to the building of an item. And then also secondly, it just like feels kind of cool that you can now there's a way for you to be able to like shut out other champs who have like really strong recurring damage. Let's say Azir, possibly even Vagar, who like kind of like pummel you down over and over, or even Anivia, who like those kind of champions. So I think Anathema Chains is really cool, and Hullbreaker's kind of weird. Yeah, that's the last thing I have to talk about.
Yeah, that's legit. I feel like I still haven't. I think you're right about anathemas. I don't think. I still can't believe that people were like super like crazy. Like this is gonna be insane. Like it definitely felt to me like there's no way that was ever gonna be a issue for that item. I think it'll be. I think it's definitely interesting. Like for situations like the one you described. Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like it's definitely not as obvious of like when to build it, which is interesting on an item for sure. And then like for Hullbreaker, I still see the Baus build it, so that's all you need. As long as AD Scion can build it, then that's exactly who they made it for.
Right, right. He's probably like one of the best champions to build it for, because from what I've heard, like Hullbreaker is such a weird item because you shouldn't build it first, because if you build it first, you're gonna lose and you'll never touch their towers, so it's useless. So you have to be winning, and you have to be in a winning matchup. But in that case, should you build some like a third or second or third damage item, or should you build Hullbreaker, which just helps you take the tower? But like, is that the object? Like the objective is to take the towers and eventually the Nexus. But like, what if you're losing out on like fighting power because you built Hullbreaker instead of like your second or third damage item? So it's kind of a weird in a weird way where like you're either building it on like Quinn second or third item because like you're usually like 80% of the time you should have a winning matchup. That's why you're playing Quinn, and then like it just helps you kill towers more. But like,
Yeah.
is that what you want, or do you want to kill people more? So it's kind of in a weird spot right now with what it does. And
Yeah, I think it's I think there's some worlds where it's like not as niche, I feel, but definitely it definitely feels pretty niche.
Yeah, well, more niche than Sanguine Blade for sure. I really liked that item.
Really? I don't know. Like I still don't think there's very many champions that ever built Sanguine Blade, you know? Like I think Quinn, you liked it. And I think Quinn, you liked it. And like they built it, they marketed it as like, oh, this is like I'm built like, I'm playing talent, I'm doing lethality things, right? And then but this one is like now I decide I'm gonna be on the side lane and in a 1v1 and the life steal is going to be useful, the attack speed will help me take towers, right? And it was never that. It was always like when it was OP when it first came out, it was just like Nocturne's building it because he'll just dive on you and have like 5 attack speed and still lethality, right? And that's exactly what Nocturne wants. And then like there's no other champs that use like that combination of stats. Whereas I can see more champs that want just like health and AD. Like I feel like that makes sense. Like that's already what bruiser items were, right?
Yeah, and I think also Sanguine Blade had a weird spot where like previously it was really good on say like Callista if you like built it first item, but this season with the whole mythic items, if you're losing out on building your mythic item, of having to push it to be your second item, then like that's so weird for most of the time. So I feel like probably Sanguine Blade did have a weird spot in like during this season, and so it's fine that they took it out, but Hopebreaker, we'll see if it evolves from here on out. All right, and that's going to be it for episode 20 of On the Hunt, a League of Legends podcast. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on the service that you are listening to us on, if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it if you would also give us a rating or hit the like button to show us some support. You can find us on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice, from Apple Podcasts to Spotify and so forth. And I've been putting that you should follow us on Twitter in the description of every episode, but I don't use that shit anymore. We'll see you all next week for another episode of On the Hunt.
See you guys later.
And find the cricket.
Yeah, fuck.